Hello, my name is Andrea. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm sharing 4 nativity themed DIYs for Christmas. For this DIY, I'm using this rectangular wood sign from Dollar Tree with a star cut out at the top, and I'm painting it navy blue with this paint from Michaels in the shade Indigo. Now I'm going into Cricut Design Space and I'm adding in a rectangle that's the same size as my sign. So I'm adding in the square, then clicking on the lock button to unlock the dimensions there so I can make it into a rectangle. Now I'm adding in a star shape to the top of the rectangle. I did measure it to make sure it's roughly about the same size, but this is just to give me the visual when I'm adding my text onto the sign so I know how big to make everything. I found this Oh Holy Night SVG online and I'm adding it to my project. Now I'm changing my rectangle to a dark blue and I'm changing the star to white. I'm selecting the words Oh Holy Night and I'm changing them to white. I'm ungrouping everything because I want to delete some of these little stars and I want to be able to move everything around and spread it out a bit more. Now I'm ungrouping this bunch of stars and I'm going to manually place the ones that I want over on the sign. Now I want to add a little nativity scene at the bottom. So I'm going into my uploaded images and searching for nativity. This was an SVG I used last year in my Christmas DIYs. I'm ungrouping these and deleting everything except for the center manger. Then I'm changing that to white and moving it onto the rectangle. Now it's just a matter of rearranging and slightly adjusting things until everything looks right. I'm hiding the rectangle and the star since I don't need to cut those out. And I'm also selecting all of the stars and clicking on attach. Now this is popping up because my design is actually longer than 12 inches, which is the standard mat size. And I do not have one of the longer 24-inch mats. So I have to go back to my design, unattach the stars, and then attach them in smaller groups. So I'm attaching all of the bottom half of the stars together and attaching all of the upper half of the stars together. Now I'm clicking on Make It again, and I can see I have these 3 separate groups of stars. So I'm moving them slightly farther apart to make it easier for me to cut out. I'm using scissors to cut out the 3 sections of the stars before I weed them out. I laid everything on my sign to get an idea of where exactly I want them to go. Then I'm using transfer tape and sticking everything onto the sign. For this DIY, I'm using this Dollar Tree Christmas sign, and I'll be painting the back of it white with this white paint from Folk Art. I'm going into Cricut Design Space, and first I'm making the rectangle the same size as my sign and making that white. Now I'm creating my own little nativity manger scene, and I'm selecting the square shape and unlocking it. And now I can adjust it to whatever thickness and size I want. So I'm making 2 of these. And to start with, I'm just playing around with it and adjusting as I go, trying to see what exactly I want to do and how I want to make it. But once I get it nailed down, then I'm going to duplicate so each of the 2 lines are exactly the same. And I'm creating 2 more lines for the roof. I'm making this yellow just for visual purposes because I'm going to be cutting it out with gold vinyl. Now I'm going back to the shapes and selecting the star and putting that at the top of the manger. Now I'm adding some text. I'm typing out a verse from Luke, and I'm changing the font to PT Serif. I'm attaching the manger and the star together because I want to cut them just as they are. Now that I've cut this design out with my Cricut, I'm using Duck brand transfer tape and applying my design to it, then transferring it onto my sign. And I'm doing the same thing with the verse, sticking that to the sign underneath the manger. And you can see I had a little visitor with me while I was doing this part. The little letters were so small and fine, it took a lot of pressing down with my scraper tool to get it to stick onto the sign. So that part was very finicky, and I lost a lot of dots of I's along the way that I had to re-put on there. For this DIY, I'm using one of these little archways from Dollar Tree, and I'm painting it black. I took a picture of the arch with my phone, and then I uploaded it and converted it to an SVG and erased the background and everything. Now I'm adding it into Design Space and adjusting it to be the proper size. And this is just to give me the visual for when I'm creating my project. I have all of these nativity themed SVGs I found online. So I'm adding in a Joseph and a Mary and a baby Jesus. I'm adjusting them, and now I can see what it's going to look like when I put it behind this arch. I'm playing around quite a bit, adjusting the size and seeing which parts I want to peek through each of the little windows. If any of them are overlapping at all, you want to make sure to weld them together. I chose to have them all a little bit separated, so I don't have to do that, but I am attaching them so they'll all just cut as is, and I can stick it on just like this. I'm tracing the arch onto a piece of white cardstock. This is actually the last page in a book of scrapbook paper, and I'm cutting it out. Now I'm transferring this silhouette of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus onto my transfer tape, then lining it up behind the frame to see how it looks, and then placing it onto this white cardstock. And I'm using my scraper tool to press it on here, and then I'm peeling off the transfer tape. I'm using hot glue to stick this onto the back of the arch. For this DIY, I'm using this Christmas sign from Dollar Tree, and I'm painting the back of it with this oak gel stain. Now I'm going into Cricut Design Space and adding in a circle the same size as the sign. I found this SVG online that says "The thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices," which I thought was really nice, and I'm changing that to white. Now I don't want a lot of these extra things that are part of this SVG, but you can see on the right it's all one, so I can't just select each of the different elements. So what I'm going to do is click on Contour on the bottom right, and this pops up with all of the elements of the SVG. So if there's anything that I don't want, I just select it. And it's a little bit tricky to tell what you have and have not selected. When it's not going to be cut, it turns a lighter gray as opposed to the darker gray, but you can just exit out and see your design and see what you're working with. I'm adding in this poly border around the edge of the sign. I'm hiding the circle, then clicking on Make It. You can see everything is kind of a jumbled mess from the border. So I'm going back to the canvas, selecting everything, and clicking on Attach. Now when I click on Make It, it's looking a lot better, and now I can just cut everything out like this. Now I'm lining up the design onto my sign, then pressing it down and peeling off the transfer tape. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments which of these nativity inspired DIYs was your favorite, and I'll see you next time.